Welcome to my channel. I'm going to change both side rack ends on my Subaru Brumby. That's the part number. First I'm going to take the wheel off, get it out of the way. Once you jack it up, make sure you put a stand underneath, just in case the jack falls down. I have already replaced the tie rod ends, but when I took it for a roadworthy certificate, they said the rack end had too much play in it. I knew there was play in the tie rod ends, that's why I changed them, but they said there was too much play up there as well. I will tag the video for the tie rod ends down below, just in case you want to see that. Take the pin out of this. I already took these off when I did the tie rod ends. They just bolt onto there. For these two saddle clamps. Bigger one goes on the tie rod end, and the smaller one goes around the rack end. Sit about there. That is to protect your boot on your CV shaft from anything that might flick up and hit it. Not that I think it's going to do much, but anything has to help. Since I've only just changed the tie rod ends, it should only take a tap to come out. Perhaps not. Now, because I've only just changed these tie rod ends, I don't want to go damaging up the threads or anything. I'm just going to get some grease, put on there so it slides on that rubber and doesn't tear the rubber. Nothing special, just some old budget grease you've got kicking around will do. There it goes. Undo the nut. That can come down. Now I'm going to take the tie rod end off the end of the rack end. The nut is a 19mm and tie rod end itself is a 22mm. Now I've tried not to move this nut because I don't want to mess the wheel alignment up too much, so I can drive to go and get a wheel alignment. And now to take the boot off. You have a little spring type clamp at each end, small one at this end, there's a large one sort of hiding up in there. Around in here there is a groove and the rubber is sitting in that. There's no clamp, but they can be a bit temperamental to get out. Now I want to be careful not to rip this boot. Just get this spring out of the way. just use the screwdriver to lift it over and then roll it out of the way. Now the end part here, you normally flip that flare over. That can give you enough room to get hold of it to pull that end away from where it's sitting. So it is only another one of these springs that are holding it in place. It's coming off now. It's about halfway off. Okay, take like that. Now to get this one here off. Just like that. Now I need to slide it down far enough so I can undo it. I'll put a little bit of grease on that, make it slide easier. Like that, pull that out of the way. Not all that bad at all. They said excessive amount of play. It moves freely, but it's not rattling. Now there is a lock washer just there. It gets flattened out onto either side. When I got the replacement rack ends, one came with a locking washer, the other one didn't. So rather than wait weeks for another order to come through, I'm going to try and reuse one of these ones. When you get yours, make sure you get your locking washer. It can save a headache. Just going to turn the wheel to bring this out further so I have more to work with. This is an old electrical screwdriver. cut the end off just so it's flat. Going to use that to try and push the locking washer up a bit more. Okay, that seems to have that enough. Now once I've got both sides off, I will pick the best washer to reuse and I will flatten that back out, make it look all pretty again. You'll need a 19mm, goes on there, and a 24mm. Still a bit tight. That's the old one out. Now before taking the boot off, I want to make sure of the position of the nut so the tie rod end comes up to approximately the same spot so I don't mess my wheel alignment up too much. And I will be needing the locking washer to pick the best one from. This is the new one that came with that locking washer, and this is the other one that came without it. Same part number. That's how that one came. This one came with a bag. Bag already had a hole ripped in it, but came with the locking washer. So it's about 19.5mm, 20mm from the end. I was going to use my verniers, but I have kids so I can never find anything. 14mm on there. 19mm on there. Now I can get the rubber boot off. Don't want to lose that spring either. Still reckon there's nothing wrong with that. It's a little loose there, but certainly not rattling, and the report was excessive play. Unless the other side's a bad one, I think they were just looking for work. So there's that spring there, holds it on. That boot is starting to perish a little bit. I'm going to have to look out for some of them. Now these come pre-greased. on. And that nut back on. Now I'll sort out the length of that before putting that tie rod end back on. Now this little locking washer has a raised bit there. There is a slot for that to go into. Raised bit goes in towards the car, and the smooth bit sits on there like that towards the rack end. And then once you've tightened it up, you bash the ends onto these flats so it sits around like that to stop it from coming undone. So I'll put that into position now and start to put this on. But as you can see, there's a groove there. That's where that bit goes, and the groove there is where that goes, which is the one that can be hard to get off. Hopefully it gives me no trouble putting it back on. And while I've got that boot off, I may as well put some grease on. Now put this on, making sure it locks into the little groove that's there for it. Get that good and tight. I can't get to the side around the back, but the front side is nice and flat, and that little tab that sticks out will snap off before that bends back. So I will straighten the wheels so I can get this boot back on. Because how it's currently sitting, I'm not going to be able to stretch it all that way to get that on. Now I'll get that inside edge on. Let's see if I can get this back on without taking off that little guard. Might have to take the guard off. I'll put this one on. And that one's in position. Might as well get this side on. That's on. That's full lock. See if it goes on any easier. I think that might have pushed itself on. I'll turn the wheel the other way, make sure. No, it didn't. It didn't push itself on at all. Wouldn't be that lucky. Got it. I'll just turn the wheels to make sure. Yep, I got it. Now I will push that flared rubber bit back. Just like that. And straighten the wheels back up. Now I need to get the locking nut about 20mm from the end. It's about 19.5 to 20mm. It only has to get me somewhere so I can get a wheel alignment. Now, because somebody's really clever at designing rack ends, they've made the locking nut the same size as the tie rod end. So I'm going to use a 22mm on one and 7/8 on the other. Make sure that's nice and tight. Now I'll put the custom nut back on. Tighten it enough to get the pin back through. That'll do. Now because it's got to go for a wheel alignment, I'm not going to put these on because I don't want them to go missing. Just for the sake of putting them on now, and while it's getting its wheel alignment, they get taken off and get lost. And I don't need to find any more of these ones. When I get back after taking it for wheel alignment, I will put them back on, bolt onto there. They're not that hard. Just remember, one has a big loop, the other one has a small loop. So the big loop goes on the tie rod end and the small loop goes on the rack end. Now I'll put the wheel back on. If you're going to use a rattle gun to put the wheel nuts back on, or anything back on, use your fingers to get the threads started, just to make sure you don't cross thread them. I'm not going to use the rattle gun. I won't have it with me if I get a flat out on the road somewhere, or while I'm four-wheel driving, but I will have this with me. Always keep it under the seat. That's tight enough to put on the ground. I will remove the stand and lower the jack. And finish making it tight on the ground. That's tight. Now for the other side. I'm interested to see if that's where all the excessive play is, even though the report said both sides. Jack it up so I can get the wheel off. Put a stand under it. Now I've jacked it up this high to make it easier to get underneath. It's also why I jacked it up as high as I did on the other side. The wheel out of the way, this pin out. Undo that nut. Use a screwdriver to recover that nut. That's just to protect the threads. See if that comes out with a tap. No. There it goes. Undo that. So I can take it off. There we go. So that seal has come off. See if I can get that clip back on before I put it back together. And get this spring off. Move it back out of the way. Put a little bit of grease on there just to make it easier to slide the rubber away. Get it off this side. Just like that. Now to get this one off. Oh, that one came off easier. Probably because that bracket's not in the way on this side. Oh, that one's ripped. I'll have to get another one. That one has the slightest bit of play in there. I wouldn't call it excessive though. Now to open up that washer, I'll turn the wheel so it comes out this way, so I have more room to work. Should be enough on that one. Now for the bottom one. Should do that. So we have a 21mm and a 24. There's a little bit of play in that one. And before I take the boot off, that is about 16mm from what I can see. I'll take this lock washer off. So I can pick which one's the best one out of the two. Take this nut off so I can get the boot off. 14mm on there and a 19mm on there. That one's stuck. That one had a really good grip, didn't want to let go. Get the spring. Need to put that on the other one. Take the boot off, even though that one has a couple of rips. I'll still put that one back on. It's got to be better than nothing, and I will order a new one and replace that boot when it comes. I won't bother recording changing the boot because you've already seen how to do that in this video, because to do the rack ends you have to do the boots as well, or get new boots. I probably should have checked my boots before starting this job. I could have ordered them and put new ones on while I was at it. So if you're watching this video because you're changing the rack ends, check your boots. Don't make the mistake that I made and didn't check them first. And just like on the other side, this one comes pre-greased. I'll take the nut off, put the boot on. Put the spring on so I don't forget it. I'll give that thread a bit of a wipe. Just wipe that off with a rag. Now when I change these boots, I obviously won't be taking this off. I'll take the tie rod end off and just pull the boot off, put the new boot on, and then I guess I'll have to take it for another wheel alignment. Well, going to have to do that because I use this car to drive to work with. Because this boot has a tear, I managed to find a good one in my spare parts. A little bit of perish there, but definitely no tears in it. It's all good. So I'll use that one. There's two washers. I managed to flatten them out. I think this one's slightly better. So because this one turned out a bit better, I'll use this one, and the other one I'll put in my spare parts in case I need it later on. I'll use this one, put in that little tag to the inside, matching it up with the groove. So that sits properly, and just like the other side, the rack end is pre-greased. That's how they come. And a 24mm. $21mm on this side, and 24 on the other side. Make it nice and tight. Yep, that's not getting any tighter. Now I just bash that washer down. Okay, that's nice and flat onto there. I can't get to the back again, just like on the other side, but that little pin bit is going to snap off way before that moves. And while I'm here, I'll put some grease on that. That's all dry. Rub some grease into them teeth, as well as everywhere else around the shaft. Now I'm going to turn the wheel to make that pull in so them teeth can drag some of that grease inside, and then I'll wipe some more on them teeth once it comes out again. Get some more grease. That should be enough. Just going to put a little bit of grease on here. Just to help the rubber slip on. Now I'll put this one on. Yep, I got that. Now I'll straighten the wheel a little bit so it's not so much of a stretch to get that side on. Wind it in a bit more. See if that makes it any easier. going to make sure that's on. It looks like it's on. Yep, that seems to be on properly. Now the little spring for the other side. Okay, that's on. Now I'll check to make sure I can get full lock both ways to make sure it's on far enough that it isn't just going to pop off when I go full lock. Seems good there. That one's so sealed, even the air's sucked out of it. Right, that's all good. Now the locking nut for the tie rod end. That nut was approximately 15-16 mil on. So that's about there. I fixed the clip that had popped off on the tie rod end. I just lifted it up with a little flat bladed screwdriver, put it back on the rubber. So that's all good again. Now I'll tighten that. It's tight. Now to put the tie rod end back on. Put the pin back in. And bend it off. Just like that. Now I just need to put the wheel back on. That's tight enough to put down on the ground. I'll remove the stand, let the jack down, finish tightening the wheel. It should be good to go. Hope this helps. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.